Assalamualaikum everyone, this is Vila Sheikh and today we are going to do May-June 2025 4024 paper 1-2. Let's start with question number 1. Question number 1 states that we are supposed to work out this following um, question. Now, what are we supposed to do? We see that this minus 2 is being multiplied with minus 4. So what we can do is this would probably be this would probably be 6 times minus 2 and minus 4 minus that gives us plus. So 2 and 4 that gives us 8. This should be 6 plus 8 and the answer would be 14 for this part. Now, part B states that we're supposed to do 80 times 0.2. Now, this is a decimal. What we'll do is we'll convert this decimal into a whole number. And what we can do for this part is basically we can do 80 times, move this one decimal, and this will turn out to be 2. So we can do 80 times 2. Now, this is very easy to solve, and the answer would be 160. But keep in mind, since you moved one decimal to the right hand side, now you need to move that decimal back again, the same number of places. So this would become what? This is going to be 16.0 for this case. And I'm going to say the answer is going to be 16. This is 14 and this is 16. Part C, it says that we're supposed to do 2 over 9 divided by 5 over 6. So since we have a sign of division, we know that to solve such questions, what we do is we reciprocate the number, so it's going to be 6 over 5, and then we flip the sign or change the sign as well. Division turns out to be multiplication. We reciprocate the numbers as well, the fractions, and we can simplify this. This is 3 times 2 and this is 3 times 3, and this would become 2 that gives us 2 times 2 gives us 4, and 3 times 5 gives us 15. So this should be 4 over 15 for this case. Part B. Now, part B says a bag contains 11 balls. There are 5 balls, blue balls, and 4 yellow balls. The rest of the balls are green, all right? So that means if we have a look at blue balls, these are basically 5. If we have a look at yellow balls, these are basically 4. And if we have a look at green balls, these are going to be the remaining balls out of 11. So 5 plus 4, that gives us 9. So the remaining green balls are going to be 2, which means a total is going to be, the total for this case is going to be 11. Now it says find the probability that the ball is yellow. Now how many balls do we have? Yellow balls, those are like 4 balls, and the total is 11. So the probability is going to be 4 over 11 for this case. Now part B says we need balls that are not blue, so that is going to be 4 plus 2, because these are blue balls, we don't need these, so we're going to do 4 plus 2, which is going to give us 6 over the total, which is going to be 11. So this case is going to be 6 over 11, right? And let me write it nicely. There should be 6 upon 11. Let's move on. The next question says the area of one face of a cube is 9 centimeter squares. On the grid, on the 1 centimeter grid, draw the accurate net of the cube. Now, how are we supposed to draw this? Now, we need to understand what exactly is a cube. A cube is basically a 3D image of a square. So it's going to be something like this, where we are going to have 6 surfaces of squares, 6 square surfaces. Now we know that one such face, one side of that has an area of 9 centimeter squares, which means each length of that is going to be under root of 9, since a square is length times length. So it's going to be 3 centimeter as the length for each of this case, right? Now, if you want to draw this, now we need to understand what type of net will we get. Net is basically a shape. When you open this box, when you unwrap this cube, you will basically get a 2D shape, which is known as net, right? So you're going to have a base, let's say a square base of 3 times 3, something like this. Make sure you draw this with a ruler, and then we say that this would have 4 such walls. So over here, one wall, the second wall of this base alongside this base, this is going to be the third such wall, and the fourth such wall. All right, make sure you draw this with a ruler. Now we have 5 surfaces. That means the bottom surface and the 4 surrounding walls. Now we are left with one wall, one such surface. Where are we going to draw that? Now we need to understand that we can draw it anywhere we like. It can be drawn over here, here, or here. Whatever surface you like, you can draw it, because these nets have numerous possible solutions, and the examiner counts all of these to be correct as long as you're drawing it logically, right? Let's move on. Question number 4. Question number 4 says that AEC and BED are straight lines. So this AEC and BED, these are straight lines. We're supposed to find the value of x. This is the value of x. Now, how do we get this? Let's see. Now, if we have a look, now examiner has given us this hint, which means this is an isosceles triangle. So the angles facing these lengths are going to be same, which means if this is 35, this should be 35, and these two sum up to be 70, right? The sum of 35 plus 35 would be 70, which means that the remaining angle of this triangle is going to be what? That is going to be 110. How do we get this? Because sum of a triangle is 180, so 180 minus 70 gives us 110, and this angle is going to be 110 as well, using the property of um, vertically opposite angles. Now this property is known as vertically opposite angles. Now we know if this is 110, this is 48, so this sums up to 158, and the remaining angle from 180 is going to represent x, because this is a triangle as well. So this angle is supposed to be 22 degrees. I hope this makes sense. Now moving on, it says question number 5 says we are supposed to solve 5 times 4 minus x is equals to 35. So this would be 5 times 4 and 5 times x. So this is going to be 20. 20 minus 5x is equals to 35, and this is going to be what? This is going to be 20 minus 35 is equals to 5x, and this would be minus 15 is equals to 5x, and the value of x is going to be minus 15 over 5, which gives us minus 3. Question number 6. Question number 6 says the scale drawing shows the positions of two villages A and B. The scale is 1 centimeter to 5 kilometers. Find the actual distance between the village A and village B. Now the scale is 1 centimeter to 5 kilometers. Now what that means is I will have to count these. I'll have to measure this instead. Sorry, I'll have to measure this using a ruler. All right. Now I will be measuring this ruler using a ruler, and whatever value I get in centimeters, I need to measure this in centimeters. Why? Because the scale is from centimeters to kilometers. So whatever the answer turns out to be from over here in centimeters, I will have to multiply this with 5 to get the actual answer. Now why can't I calculate this properly? It's because when you print this out, your paper might not be of the standard size of the Cambridge printing style, right? So your answers might slightly differ, so you don't need to worry for this case. Even if your answers are slightly different, it doesn't matter much as long as you're doing it correctly. Let me repeat again. You're going to measure AB using a straight ruler in terms of centimeters, and whatever the answer is, just multiply it with 5, because it says 1 centimeter of this map of the question paper represents 5 kilometer on the real scale, on the real on the real location, real site, and then we are supposed to find the actual distance between village A and village B. That's how you're going to attempt. All right. So for question number 6, it says that village C is on a bearing of 60 degrees from village A, and village C is on a bearing of 320 degrees from village B. Now what does that mean? I'll try to explain in the best possible way that I can. All right. So if village C is on 60 degrees from A, so that means at A on the bearing of 60 degrees, somewhere around here there is going to be village A, which would lie on this particular line. And in a similar manner, that village C, if it's on bearing of 320 degrees from village B, so that means you're going to mark 320 degrees on your protector, and then you're starting from the north of your B, and at 320 degrees somewhere here you are going to draw a line of 320 degrees bearing, and somewhere here is going to be your village C. Now what are you going to do? Let's have a look. So you will take your protector over here, all right, and you are going to place it at this place exactly at the center, and you're going to mark a line. When you align it with 0 degrees of the baseline, you're going to mark a point of 60 over here, somewhere around here, right? This is going to be your mark for 60 degrees somewhere here, right? Now you're going to repeat the same process. Now the problem is you cannot have 320 degrees on your calculator. So if you can't have on your protector, so if you can't have 320 degrees on your protector, what else can you do? You can rotate the other way around, and you can find 360 minus of 320, so that gives you 40 degrees, and you can mark a point of 40 degrees over here. Why are we doing it? We are basically doing the reverse order of that. If the forward side is 320 degrees, the other side is going to be 40 degrees, and you are going to mark these lines right here, right? So we'll take it something like this. something like this. It's going to be in this manner, where we're going to rotate this and we're going to align these points like this slightly, somewhat like this. Have a look. Let me do it. So something around this, right? And you're going to mark a point. You're going to mark this line at here, and then the same process you're going to do with the other place at the other side like this, which will give you a value around over here. So somewhere around this part is going to be your point. See, now keep in mind that if you do it on this question paper, if you print it at home, your answers may not be very accurate to the marking scheme, because the printing size is slightly different of your A4 compared to the printing of the Cambridge examination. So that is what you need to keep in mind. But this is what you're supposed to do, where this angle is 60, and then this whole bearing is what this whole bearing is, or not this one, apologies, this whole bearing is, oh, I raised it. Anyways, this side is starting from here up until here is what, that is going to be 320 degrees. This part, this is 320, and this side is going to be 40. So that is what you need to keep in mind, right? Here we go. Now question number 7 says that we are supposed to evaluate under cube root of 125. Now we know that 125 is a cube number, and that is a cube number of 5. So we can say that the answer for this is going to be 5. Now you should be memorizing the cube numbers of 1 up until the number 10, and then square numbers of 1 up until the number 20. So those should be on your fingertips for paper 1 of O levels and paper 2 of IGCSE. So the answer is going to be 5 for this case. Now if we move ahead, it says we are supposed to evaluate 4 power minus 2. Now this 4 power minus 2, keep in mind, if we have a value if we have the power as -2 for any such cases, the law of indices states that you are going to reciprocate the numbers, because over here it's 4, which means it's supposed to be divided with 1, and since you have the power is negative, you're supposed to reciprocate these numbers, which will be 1 over 4, and then your power turns out to be positive, and this is going to be positive 2, which means the square of 2 on this whole thing. Now the square of 2 means 1 square over 4 square, 4 square over here, apologies. So this is 1 square over 4 square, and this would mean this is going to be 1 over 16 for this case. Now question number 8. Question number 8 states that Asha records the distance she walks and the time she takes for each of 10 walks. The table shows her results, and we are supposed to complete the scatter diagram. Now, how are we supposed to do this? Let's see. Now, these values have been drawn for us. These have been done already, because the examiner says the first 6 points have been plotted for you. We are supposed to plot 4.2 and 52. Now 4.2 and 52 is supposed to be done somewhere here. Over here is 4.2 and 52, and then we have 90 and 116. So 90 and 9 and 116 is going to be drawn somewhere over here, and then we are supposed to draw 3.8 and 49. So this is 3.8 somewhere here, and 49 is supposed to be drawn at this place, and then it says 5.6 and 62. So 5.6 somewhere here, and 62 will be drawn at this place. Now we are supposed to draw a line of best fit. Let me open it real quick. Right, here I have it. So to draw a line of best fit, we'll be taking a ruler, and then we'll make sure that we satisfy as many points as we can. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we don't force a line to pass from 0. We'll take this scale and we will draw it somewhere over here. As we can see now, when I draw this line, this is kind of satisfying most of the points. And then at the same time, I may have similar number of points underneath this line and above this line as well. So I'm going to draw this line as my line of best fit, something like this, right? Now, oh, sorry, it did not work out. Let me do it again. So it's going to be something like this. Now the examiner has a wide range of answers for this case, right? So you can have slightly different answers as well. So you don't need to worry. because the answers can be different. What's wrong with this? Right, here I have it, finally. So you're going to draw it something like this. Now, um, now let's see what the examiner says. We are done with drawing a line of best fit. It says Asha goes for another walk. She walks a distance of 6.8 kilometers. Use a line of best fit to estimate the time Asha takes for this walk. So the data that we have is in kilometers, which is 6.8, and we're supposed to find the time in minutes. Now, if we have a look, we have 6.8 somewhere at this place right here. So what will I do? I'll again take my ruler and I will draw a line over here which is going to be at 6.8, something like this. All right, I'll draw it like this, 6.8, and the next thing that I'm going to do, wherever this intersects, I will be finding its respective value from the axis that states or gives me the value for time, and I will be drawing a horizontal line this time, for this case, and the answer is going to be somewhere around 70 minutes for this case. Let's do it. So it's going to be somewhere around 70. Now keep in mind your answers might be slightly different, but the examiner accepts it as long as you're doing it correctly, right? Now, question number 9. Question number 9 says the diagram shows a rectangle. By writing each number correct to one significant figure, find an estimate for the area of the rectangle. Now we need to solve this by considering each value correct to one significant figure. Now what that means is, now we want to find the area as well in millimeter squares. That means both the dimensions should be in millimeters as well. So if I round this off to one significant figure, which means up until this value, so this will round off to 90, multiplied by this value, and this 3 would be rounded off based on this value. So this is going to be what this is going to be 20, and then this is how I'm going to get my final answer. So 9 times 2, that gives me 1 8 18, and then I'm going to have two zeros as well, so this is going to be 1800 millimeters squares. Now 10A states that I am supposed to write a product. I'm supposed to write 228 as a product of its prime factors. Now, what are we going to do for this case? We're supposed to do prime factorization. Now, prime factorization means we are supposed to divide it with the smallest prime factors initially. So 228 can be divided by 2, and the answer turns out to be 114. This can be further divided by 2, and this would give me somewhere around, I believe, 57. And then I can divide it with 3, and for this case it's going to be 19. And the last thing, when I divide it, there is no other prime number in between these, so it's going to be 19 divided by 19, and that's going to give me 1. So it's going to be 2 square into 3 into 19 for this case. Here we go. Now part B says that 228 square is 51984, and we're supposed to write 51984 as a product of its prime factors. Now what that means is, there is going to be, since 228 was equivalent to this value, so it's going to be square on the whole thing like this, 19 and then a square. So when you open it, this would be 2 times power 4 into 3 square into 19 square for this case. Let's move on. Question 11 says that the mass of a small box is x kgs, the mass of a large box is y kgs, the total mass of 4 small boxes and 6 large boxes is 30 kgs. Now, so it says 4 small boxes and 6 large boxes, where the value of small box is 6, it's x, sorry. So it's going to be 4 times of x plus 6 times of y, and this answer is going to give me a value or weight that is equivalent to 30. And then we need to show that this sums up, or this would result in this equation. Now what am I going to do? I'll simplify it. I'll take something as common, because we know that all of this can be divided with the number 2. So I'll take 2 as common. So when I take 2 as common, this would become 2x plus 3y is equals to 15, and which means we have proven it right here. Now, if you don't know where this concept comes from, so what we can say is, this is basically 2x plus 3y minus 15 is equals to no, sorry. This is basically going to be 4x plus 6y minus 30 is equal to 0. So when you take 2 as common, it can be divided on the other side, and that gives you 0 as it is, right? So you can basically take common and you can get rid of that common number, because eventually that will be divided with 0 on the other side. Part B. So we can say that this has been shown, hence shown. Now, part B says the total mass of 6 small boxes and 1 large box is 13 kg. Use this information to write down an equation in terms of x and y. A total mass of 6 small boxes, so that is going to be 6x, and 1 large box, that is going to be 1y, is equivalent to what? That is equivalent to 13. Now, this is the information that we have, and we have the equation 6x plus y is equals to 13. Now, the next part, it says solve the simultaneous equation to find the mass of a small box and mass of a large box. Now, we are supposed to find the value of x and y using simultaneous equations. There are numerous methods that we know. We know substitution, we know elimination, and then we know a graphical as well. So we can use any of the two methods, the first two methods that I mentioned. So 2x plus 3y is equals to 15, and 6x, this is 6x plus 1y is equals to 13. So you can use any of the two methods. Now what we'll do, we can do elimination actually. So if I do elimination, now this whole thing is supposed to be multiplied with 3. Now when I multiplied with 3, this will give me what? The new equations will turn out to be 2x plus 3y is equals to 15, and then this is going to be 2 3 3 6, right? That gives me 18x plus 3y is equals to 39. Now although these numbers are positive, but I can still cancel these, and what I'll do, I'll change or flip the signs of the bottom equation, add um the second equation basically underneath the first one. So this would become minus, this becomes minus as well. So 2 minus 18 gives me minus of 16. X is equal to 15 minus 39 would give me what? That would give me 24, I believe, right? So this is supposed to be 24 with a negative sign. So the value for x is going to be 24 over 16 with a negative sign. So negative negative gets cancelled. So this is 4, or actually this can be divided with 8. So this is 8 times 2. This is 8 times 2, and this is 8 times 3. So this gives me 3 over 2 as the answer for the small box, which is the value of x. So this is 3 over 2. Now I can use any of the equations to find the value of large box, and the value of large box, let's just take this equation initially. So it's going to be 6 times 3 over 2 plus 1y is equals to 13, and this would be y is equals to 13 minus 6 times 3 over 2, and this would become 1 times, and then this is 3. So y is equals to 13 minus 3 into 3, that is 9, and y would turn out to be 4 kgs, and we can say that this is going to be 4, right? So right, let's start with question number 12. Question number 12 says that a triangle A and triangle B are drawn on the grid, and this question seems to be of transformation. The question demands that we are supposed to describe a single transformation that maps A onto B. The first thing that we want to see for the case of description is going to be whether or not the two sizes are same. The two sizes are same, which means this cannot be enlargement. The second thing that we check is whether this feels like a copy paste, right? So this isn't a copy paste. Why? Because the orientation is slightly different, so we'd say this isn't translation either. Now what we'll do is we'll be joining the corresponding points, and we'll see if these give us parallel lines. If these give us parallel lines, that means this is going to be reflection, otherwise this is going to be rotation. And as you can see, this doesn't give us parallel lines, hence this is going to be a case of this will be a case of rotation. All right, so we'll say that this is rotation. And what are we supposed to write for the case of rotation? The first thing we'll write is going to be the type of transformation, that is rotation. The second thing that we write is the center of rotation. Now how do you find the center of rotation? There are numerous ways, trial and error. You can also do the perpendicular bisectors and everything. So what we can say that when we see these points, we may be seeing a perpendicular bisector would somewhere be at this place, at this location, right? And what we can see is that would come with practice. If I have a look, so this coordinate kind of satisfies the center of rotation if I want to find it directly. So this is going to be the coordinate, but if you want to do it, you can use trial and error method of the tracing paper, and you can use perpendicular bisectors as well. So I'd say the center of rotation for this case is going to be that is going to be -2 and 1. The center of rotation would be -2 and 1. And the last thing that we are supposed to write is where does the object move, the direction of it. So we are going from A to B. So as you can see, from A to B, it's going like this in this direction, and that should be 90-degree clockwise. All right. So this is going to be 90-degree clockwise. Let's read the next part. The next part says that we are supposed to draw the image of triangle A after reflection of the line x is equals to -1. Now, what exactly is x is equals to -1? Let's see. Now, x is equals to -1 is a line which is drawn vertically at -1. So it will be drawn something like this. So this should be my x is equals to -1. All right, over here. This is going to be my x is equals to -1. Now, how do I draw, or how do I draw a triangle that is reflected through this line? I'll just check the number of boxes from this line up until this point. So it's just 2 points away. So this is going to be my first coordinate. And then what about this coordinate? This coordinate is 4 points away. So I'll just draw 4 points away from here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, actually, it's 5 coordinates. Apologies for that. So 2 and 3, these are like 5 coordinates. So I'm supposed to draw 5 coordinates, 2, and then 3 more somewhere here. And then we will follow the same steps. So this point is 1, 2, 3, and 4 coordinates away. So from here, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's going to be somewhere here. All right. So we will be drawing it real quick. This is the triangle that we may see. So it's going to be something like this. Let me draw it neatly. So it's going to be something like this. Now, the next part says triangle A is enlarged with a scale factor of k and center 0, 0. Another triangle is formed once we enlarge object A from the center of enlargement being 0 and 0. Let me erase all of this, right? So we need to enlarge triangle A from this center, and then it further says that triangle C is the image of the triangle. So the new triangle that is formed is known as triangle C right now, and one of the vertex is 12. So, what is vertex? Vertex is a corner or where the two lines meet. So it says a transformed image from one of these vertices, when it's transformed, gives us 12 and 3. Now we are supposed to find what is the scale factor. Now we need to understand when an object is enlarged, so each of the coordinate is multiplied equally with the scale factor. What that means is this coordinate is 4 and 1. So 4 and 1, this coordinate is 3 and 2, and this coordinate is 1 and 1. When I multiply k with this, so that means k will be multiplied with this coordinate and this coordinate as well. So what that means is the new coordinate, which is 12 and 3, it cannot be this coordinate to say the least, because it should have been maybe 12 and 12 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 4 and so on and so forth. So this cannot be the new transformed coordinate. Now in a similar manner, now if we have a look, now if we say 12 and 3, now if we compare these two with 12 and 3, now what do you think about this? Now 12 comma 3. Now what do you think about this? Let's try to divide 12 and 4, that gives me 3, 3 and 1, that gives me 3 as well. So what that means is when I divide these two terms, x and y, so that means both of these give me the same answer, that is 3, which means that this may be correct. So again, I'll cross check this with this as well. And if it doesn't give me the correct answer, that means this is for sure going to be the new vertex. All right. So 12 divided by 3, that gives me 4, whereas 3 divided by 2, that gives me 1.5. So this cannot be the new coordinate. So what that means is when you transform this image, so that would give you 12 and 3. And what is going to be the scale factor? The scale factor is going to be 3, because this is what the number is being multiplied with. So we say the scale factor for this case is going to be 3. Now it says find the coordinates of the other two vertices. Now it should be easy. Now since we have the value for k, what can we do? We can just simply multiply 3 with these cases, because we found out k to be 3, and so the first coordinate is going to be 1, 1 multiplied by 3, Hence, that is going to be 3 and 3. And the other one, when you multiply with 3, that will give you 3 threes are that is 9, and 3 twos are that is 6. So this is going to be 9 and 6. Question 13. Question 13 says that in a in a sale, a shop reduces all prices by 20%. A coat costs $85 before the sale. That means this is the actual cost price, or the actual cost price or mark price, and then work out the sale price of the coat. So what are we supposed to do? We know that if this is the actual price, this is supposed to be equivalent to 100%. So we'd say percentage and the prices. Percentage and the prices. So this is how it's going to look. So we know that 100 percentage, the mark price is supposed to be $85, and then we're supposed to find out the sale price. Since a price is reduced by 20 percentage, so the new percentage in terms of price would be what? That'll be 80 percentage. The new price would be 80 percentage, and we do not know its corresponding value. We'll take that as x, and we'll do cross multiplication, and this would give us what? Let's have a look. So this is going to be 100, x is equals to 85 into 80, and then when we solve this further, this is going to be x is equals to 85 into 80 over 100, and then this and this can be cancelled, and then we can further solve this. So this is going to give us what? So we can say this is 4, 2 fours are and 2 fives are, and then we can further solve this 5 1 times, and then this is going to be 15 35. This should be 17 times, right? So if you solve x, x is equal to 17 into 4, and then this should give us 28 and 40. So this should be somewhere around $68. So here we go. Now, part B says the sale price of the shirt is $40. So this is the sale price, the discounted price of a similar condition, which is 20%, right? It says work out the cost of the shirt before the sale. Now, this is a slightly different question. Now, this might be tricky for some students, but keep in mind that our concept would be same. We'll be using the same method, percentage and prices. Now this time we do not know the cost price or the mark price, so that means the 100 percentage or the actual amount of percentage that we do not know its corresponding price, the mark price. So we'll consider this as y this time, and then we know the $40 price, and that was the reduced price or the sale price, which is equivalent to 80 percentage for this case. And we'll do cross multiplication again, and this would give us what? This would give us y is equals to 100 into y is equals to 100 into 40 over 80, and then we can solve this 0 and 0, ones are and twos are, and this is going to give me somewhere around, this is 10 times 0, so this is 100 divided by 2, that gives me $50 as the price. Now question 14, it says A is the point -4 and 5, and B is the point 6 and 1, where BC is equals to -3 and -4. We are supposed to find the column vector AB. Now, how do you find the column vector AB? Have a look at this. Now, for vectors, what do we usually do? We say that in order to solve vectors, we use the keyword second minus first. Now, what does that mean? The second alphabet minus the first alphabet in terms of position vectors. So it's going to be OB minus of OA. Now, do we have OB and OA? Yes, we do have OB and OA. If you have a look, this is the coordinate. This is the coordinate. Yep, this is the coordinate A, and that is the coordinate B. So what am I going to say? I'll write the coordinate B in terms of position vector. So that's going to be 6 and 1 minus of OA. OA is what? That is -4 and 5. So when I solve this, it's going to be 6 minus -4. That gives me 10, and 1 minus 5. That's going to be -4, and the answer is going to be 10 and -4. It says find the coordinates of C. How am I supposed to find the coordinates of C? If I have a look, I have this vector, column vector, which is BC, that says BC is equals to -3 and -4. Now, if I again apply the same concept of second minus first, do I have the coordinate C? We need to find the coordinate of C, but we have the coordinate of B. So what can we do? We can do BC is equals to OC minus of OB, again using the same concept of second minus first, and then this would give us what? A -3 and -4. This is -3 -4 is equals to what's AC? We're supposed to find OC. Sorry, we're supposed to find OC minus of OB. What's the coordinate B? Do we have coordinate of B? Yes, we do. That's 6 and 1. So this vector would be added on the other side, minus 3, minus 4, plus 6 and 1, that gives us OC. And the value for OC would be minus 3 and 6, that would give me 3, and minus 4 and plus 1, that's going to give me minus of 3. Right? Now, if we have a look at the next part, what does it say? Now, part number C says that ABCD is a trapezium where AB is parallel to DC and AB is equals to 2 times DC, where we're supposed to find the coordinates of D. Now, let's see, do we have AB or DC, any of the two? Let's have a look at the data that we have. So, do we have AB or DC? We do have AB, which is 10 and minus 4, right? So, now we can say that 10 and minus 4 is equals to 2 times of DC, where DC would be this, since this is being multiplied, 2 can be divided on the other side. So it's going to be half of 10 and minus 4, which is equivalent to DC, and the DC would turn out to be what? That would be 5 and minus 2. Now we can again use the same concept of second minus first. Since we have the coordinate C, we can easily find out D. So we can say 5 and minus 2, DC is equivalent to OC minus OD in terms of position vectors. And if you want to find OD, this will be OD is equals to OC minus 5 and minus 2. Like this, minus would be on the outside. Right? Now, what can we say? Now, when we solve this, this would look something like this, where we're supposed to find OD. And OD would be what? OC, do we have the coordinate OC? That is 3 and minus 3. So this should be 3 and minus 3, minus of 5 and minus 2. So 3 minus 5, that gives us minus 2, and minus 3 plus 2, that gives us minus of 1. Now, part 2 says find the length of the line AD and give your answer as assert in its simplest form. Now, how do you find AD? Let's have a look. Again, do we have necessary coordinates of A and D? We have the coordinate of D. We found it out. Do we have the coordinate A? Yes, we do have the coordinate of A. That means we can first find out AD, and after that we can apply the concepts of length in vectors. Now, AD can be solved using OD minus O of A, and over here, if we look at the coordinate of OD, that is minus 2 and minus 1, minus 2, minus 1, minus of OA. What does OA what is OA basically? That is minus 4 and 5. It's going to be minus 4 and 5. Now, when we solve this, minus 2 and plus 4, that gives us as 2, and then minus 1 and minus 5, minus 1, minus 5, and this should be the vector, column vector AD should be equivalent to 2 and minus 6. Now, if I'm supposed to find its length, what am I supposed to do? I'll basically doing x square and y square should be 2 square and plus of minus 6 square, and this should be equivalent to under root of 4 plus 36, which is equal to under root of 40. Now I'll be doing the prime factorization to write it in the third form, and we can say when we solve this, it should be equal to 20 mazid, if we divide it by 2, so this should be 10, and if we divide it further by 2, this should be 5, and then we divide it by 5 again, so we get 1. Now we'll be looking for the number of pairs that we have. So we have this pair only, and the rest of the values are lone pairs. So what we'll say, we can say 2 into 2 into 2 into 5, where this pair comes outside, and we can say that this is going to be 2, and then inside we'll be left with 2 and 5, that is going to be 10. So it's going to be 2 root of 10. That is going to be the answer in the third form. Question 15 says that we're supposed to simplify this particular set. How are we going to do this? Again, the concept of prime factorization. Let's see. Let's solve 175 using prime factorization. If we divide it with 5, because this cannot be divided with 2 or 3 either, so we'll divide it with 5 and we'll be left with 35. When we further divide it with 5, we are left with 7, and this gives us 7 and 1. So how many pairs do we have? We just have a pair of 5. That's written twice. That's about it. Let's solve the other thing. That is under root of 28. And when we take prime factorization of 28, we are left with 2. And then this gives us 14. Further divided with 2. And we are left with 7. And further divided with 1. And we are left with 1. So what that means is, Over here we have this pair like this. So what can we say? We can state that this can be written as root of 5 into 5 into 7 minus root of 2 into 2 into 7, where this and this number comes outside. So this should be written as 5 root of 7 minus 2 root of 7. And when you solve this, this would be what? 5 minus 2, that gives us 3. So this should be 3 root of 7 as the answer. Now, the next part, we are supposed to rationalize. How do we rationalize? Now, for rationalization, we know that these numbers can be multiplied. How do we multiply? The denominator is supposed to be multiplied and divided as well. So it's going to be something like this. So this will be multiplied over here and this will be multiplied over here. So this is going to give me what? This is going to give me root of 5 divided by root of 5. Root of 5, that is 5 itself. That means root of 5 divided by 5. These are a few concepts of surds that you should have that should be on your fingertip. Now, question 80 says a group of 80 people over here, a group of 80 people each record their journey time from home to work one day. The cumulative frequency diagram shows the results. And then for this cumulative frequency diagram, we are supposed to calculate the median. Now keep in mind, for the case of cumulative frequency and recording its median, we divide the total number by 2. So we need the half of the data set, half of which data set, the total number, that is 80. So what is half of 80? So it's going to be 80 over 2, that gives me 40. But keep in mind, this 40 isn't my answer. I'm supposed to read the value of 40 and then I need to answer it from its x-axis. So it's going to be something like this. So when I read it, wherever it intersects, you're going to read its x value, and when you read it downwards, so this is the answer that you're going to get. It's going to be somewhere around 32. So you're going to say the median value for this case is going to be 32. Now what's the interquartile range? Interquartile range is the upper quartile minus lower quartile, which also can be written by q3 minus q1. So q3 minus of q1. And how do you solve this? It's going to be 75 percentage, which is also 3/4 of 80, and minus q1, which is 1/4 of 80. So this value gives you 3/4 of 80 gives you what? That gives you 60. The answer for this is going to be 60 and the answer for this is going to be 20. Now keep in mind, we cannot subtract these values directly. No, that's not what we're supposed to do. But instead, for the case of upper quartiles and lower quartiles and interquartiles, for all of these, what we do is we read the corresponding values from the y-axis. So again, we'll read the value for 60 over here, and then we read the value for 20 over here as well. So it's going to be something like this over here. Apologies. So it's going to be somewhere over here. And then we're going to read its values on the y-axis. Oh, sorry, x-axis. Apologies. We're going to read it on the x-axis, which is going to be right here. And for this case, you read its value on x-axis as well, right here. Now, this is the value for upper quartile. So Q3 would be equivalent to 35. Q3 is 35, and over here Q1 is basically 25. So what are you supposed to do? For this case, you're supposed to do Q3 minus Q1, that gives you 35 minus of 25, and this should be equivalent to 10. This is supposed to be your answer. Now the third part says the number of people who had a journey of 40 minutes or more. Now where is the time 40? Let's have a look. If we have a look at this question, now this is where I have a value of 40 right here. This is my 40. Now the examiner says you're supposed to tell a value or the number of people that are basically 40 or more, which means the data set that is represented on this side, 40 or more. Now again, what will I do? I will try to interpret this data set in terms of number of people, which is represented by my cumulative frequency table, right? Cumulative frequency value. So what will I do? I will go in the reverse order, and then I'll read this value from this side. Let's try to read it. I'll go it in the reverse order now. I'll read the value on this side, and Now this is going to be somewhere around 72. Now let's read the question again. The question says that we are supposed to find the number of people who had a journey time of 40 minutes or more. Now we know that the time in minutes is shown over here. That means this data set should be 40 or more, which shows on this side. Now, how would that interpret on the y-axis? Now, understand this. Now, if it says 40 minutes or more, it kind of means that this data set is the data set that we're concerned about. So, when we interpret it on the x-axis, now can we say that it would be this data set that we need to find, right? On the above side, on the top side. So, what do? We know that this value is supposed to be 80 and the maximum data that we had from the graph was 80. So for this question, we will instead of writing 72, what are we going to do? We will be doing 80 minus of 72, that is going to be equals to 8 number of people. Now part B says that each of the 80 people also record their journey time from work to home. Now it says that J says that the journey times from home to work are more consistent than the journey times from work to home. Is J correct? Let's see. Let's try to understand the question. Now, this data that we have over here is from home to work. This data set, all of the calculations that we did was what? That was from home to work. Whereas for this data set, it says this is the data set from work to home. Now we need to relate or compare the two conditions, and it says that the journey times from home to work, which means home to work, this data set is, as per J, it's more consistent than the journey time from work to home than this. So J says that the data set that we have on the previous page is more consistent compared to this. So is he correct or no? How do we know whether or not the data is consistent or not? If the interquartile range is smaller, the lesser the value is for interquartile range, that means the data is going to be more consistent, it's going to be more close to each other, it's going to be more kind of you can say packed to each other. So which means yes. How do we know that? Yes, because if we have a look at this interquartile range, the interquartile range over here is 15, whereas the interquartile range over here was 10. So that means this data set is more consistent and is more close to each other, with less values being far from that far from each other, right? So what that this means is that yes, J is correct. Why? Because the interquartile range IQR is less compared uh, compared to what? Compared to this work to home, right? So this is what we can say. Question 17 says the equation of the line L is 5y plus 3x is equals to 10, and then we need to rearrange this to make y the subject. So this needs to be alone. Now what will we do for this part? We will move all the numbers on the other side, so it's going to be something like 5y is equal to 10 minus of 3x, and then y is going to be equivalent to 10 minus 3x over 5, and then you can also simplify this further if you wish. So it's going to be something like it's going to be 10 over 5, that gives you 2. So y is going to be equivalent to 2 minus 3 over 5 of x. So that's how you can write this. Part B. Part B says the line P is perpendicular to line L over here. Line P is perpendicular to line L. What do we know when the two lines are perpendicular? We know that the gradients are going to be reciprocal. The gradient for line L from this case was minus 3 over 5. So what is going to be the gradient for the other line? Let's write it down. So m of L is going to be minus 3 over 5, because if you compare it with y is equals to mx plus of c, so something like this. So the gradient for line P is going to be what? That is going to be 5 over 3 with a positive sign. And then we know that this line P passes through 6 and 7. We are supposed to find the equation of line P. So what can we do? We can say that y is equals to 5 over 3x plus c, using the equation of y is equals to mx plus c. and then this passes from 6 and 7, so we can say 7 is equals to 5 over 3 times of 6 plus c. So this is 1 times 2 times, so 7 is equals to 10 plus c, where the value for c is going to be 7 minus 10, which is going to be minus 3. So we have the equation. The equation for this case is going to be y is equals to 5 over 3x minus of 3. Let's move on. Question number 18 says that we are supposed to describe the motion of the cyclist from time 40 to time 100. Now understand this part. What do you think about this motion in terms of speed? If we have a look, can we say we have the same speed throughout the time 40 to 100? So what can we say over here? We can say that this is constant speed, or in other words, you can also answer this in terms of acceleration if you wish. So when there is a constant speed, that means the body isn't accelerating, so we can say that there is zero acceleration as well, so that should be correct too. Now if we have a look at the other part, it says the acceleration of the cyclist between t0 and t40 is 0.25. So the acceleration for this journey, for this part from 0 to 40, is what? That is 0.25. We are supposed to show that v is equals to 10. Now we know that for a speed time graph, acceleration is represented by the gradient, so we can say that the gradient, which is acceleration 0.25, should be equivalent to y2 minus y1, which means the change in the values of y, which is going to be v minus 0. So this is going to be equivalent to v minus 0 upon the change in the body in the values of x, which is going to be 40 minus 0. So something like this. So now we know that 0.25 is equals to v over 40, and 40 when multiplied with 0.25, that would give us what? 40 times 0.25, this would give us 10 as the answer. So we know that we have proven it, or we can also write that hence shown. Now part C says the total distance traveled by the cyclist between t0 and t capital T is 1.4 kilometers. Now over here, we need to understand that the total journey, or the total distance covered by the whole motion, is 1.4 kilometers. Now how do you find distance? Distance can be found out using area under the graph, and let's have a look. So if we have a look at the area under the graph, so we are supposed to find these areas. Now how do you find these? We need to basically apply a 0 half times, so it's half into the area of this, which was base into height, which is 40 into the V10. So 40 times of 10 plus the area of the second case, which is rectangle. So this is going to be 60 times the height, which is 10. So this is going to be 60 into 10 plus the third journey, which is also a triangle, which is going to be, the height is going to be 10. So we say half into 10 into the base, which is going to be t minus of 100. So this turns out to be t minus of 100, and this whole value should be equivalent to 1.4 kilometers. But at the same time, we need to understand the units may not be same, because this is in kilometers, whereas the time, or the time, is in seconds and the speed is in meter per seconds. That means we have to use the similar units, which means this is going to be 1400 meters for this case. Now, when we solve this, this is going to be 400 divided by 2, which is equivalent to 200, plus of 60 into 10 is 600, plus of this is going to be 10 over 2, that is 5 times t minus 100, should be equivalent to 1400. Now this 5 times t minus 100 should be equivalent to 1400 minus of 800, and this should be 5 times t minus of 100 should give me what? That should give me 2, and this should be 600, and t minus 100 should give me 600 over 5. So this should be somewhere around 12 and 120. So t is equals to 100, t minus 100 is equals to, this is basically 120, and this should be equals to t minus 100 is equals to 120, and the value for t will turn out to be 120 plus 100. That gives me what? That gives the answer as 220 for this case. Question number 19 is of simplification, and as per this question, we're supposed to simplify this fraction. Now, how are we going to simplify this? Let's see, this is for 4 marks. Now, for this question, we know that there is a term in the numerator and then there is another term in the denominator. So, what are we going to do? So, we'll be solving both of these separately, and we know that if we take 3 as common from the numerator, we'll be left with x squared minus 4, and then if we divide it with any term, it's going to be 2x squared plus 11x plus 14. Now we need to see whether or not we can simplify this further. Now if we have a look carefully, that this can probably be converted into the third identity, which says a squared plus b, a plus b, a minus b, that is equivalent to a squared minus b squared. So this should be 3 times x square minus 2 square, and which can be further written as 3 times x plus 2 and x minus 2. All right. Now, similarly, if I have a look at the denominator, that is probably going to be middle term breaking. And how do we solve middle term breaking, or the factorization method? We multiply first number with the third one, and that is going to be 2 into 14, which is going to give us 28. Now, the factors of 28 state that it is either 2 into 28, or then we also know that this is going to be 7 into 4, 7 into 4, right? Or 4 into 7. So 2 into 28 and 4 into 7. So this is probably going to be 4 into 7, where we say this is going to be 2x square plus 4x plus 7x plus 14. How do we know that? Because this term, when added or subtracted together, would give us 11, which is the middle term basically. So with further simplification or taking common, we know that 2x is going to be common. When we take 2x as common, we'll be left with x plus 2, and the other thing that will be left is going to be when we take 7 is common. So when we take 7 is common, we will be left with x plus 2 as well. Since two of the brackets are same, so we're going to write this once, and this will be written as 3 times x plus 2 and x minus 2, and divided with, it's going to be 2x plus 7 bracket and x plus 2 as another bracket. Now, we have a look. If we have a look at this part, we know that this x plus 2 and x plus 2 can be cancelled. So what are we going to be left with? We are going to be left with 3 times of x minus 2 divided with 2x plus 7. That is going to be the simplest answer that we can get for this part. Now, question number 20 states that we are supposed to work out this particular part, and this seems to be a question of recurring decimals. Now, what does recurring decimal tell us? How are you supposed to solve this? Now, as per this question, we know that it's going to be recurring decimals, right? For this part, what are we going to do? We will be applying a basket underneath of 0.17. So when we solve this part, this means that from the decimal, it's 0 decimal places moved and 2 decimal places moved. So 2 decimal place and 0 decimal places moved up until the first point of the basket and the last part of the basket. So 0 dp means this is supposed to be multiplied with 1, which means the actual thing, and 2 dp means this is supposed to be multiplied with 100. So I'll write the equation as it is, which is going to be multiplied with 1. So this will give me x is equals to 0.17, where this is the recurring term, and then when it's multiplied with 100, this is going to be 100. X is equals to 17.17, where this 17 or 0.17 is the recurring term. So what do? We subtract the two equations. When we subtract the two equations, we will be left with 100 x minus x is equals to this, and this will be subtracted, and this will be subtracted. So what are we left with? We are left with 17.17 minus 0.17, where these recurring terms will be cancelled, and we will be left with 17 minus 0. So this should be somewhere around 99x is equals to, this should be 17, and the value for x, or the recurring term, is going to be 17 over 99. But we are not done with it. We have just solved this part. So when we solve this further, this should be what? 17 over 99. 17 over 99 plus 5 over 9 is what the question demanded. So we're going to solve this further, and this will basically be multiplied with 11, so that the LCMs are same. We are supposed to take the LCM, so this will become what? This will become 17 over 99 plus 55 over 99, where 17 plus 55 gives us what? That gives us 62, and 72, this should be 72 over 99. But we just need to do one additional step, and that is of taking the common. We're supposed to take the common or simplify this. So how can we simplify this? We can probably simplify this using the table of 3. When we take or consider the table of 3, what are we going to get? So this is 3 times of 33, I believe, and the other thing would be 20 and 6, 20, and it will further be divided with, so 3 times 20 is 60, and then 12 is of basically 3 into 4, right? So it's going to be 24. So it's supposed to be 24 over 33. Now we'll see, can we divide this further? So I assume yes, we can. So this should be what? This should be 24 over 33, which will further be divided with 3. So it should be 3 times 8 and 3 times 11. So the answer for this is going to be 8 over 11. Right? Now let's solve this further. Question number 21 seems to be of vectors. It says we are supposed to find ax, and how are we supposed to find ax? For ax, we know that x is a point such that ax and xb is 3:2, which means this length is 3 and this length is 2 from this point up until this point and this point. And we are supposed to find ax. How will we find ax? Let's see. Now, in order to find ax, we should be knowing that is there any other value that we know? Yes, we know that OA is equals to A and OB is equals to B. So the first thing that we're going to do for AX is to find AB. Since AX is some part of AB, so first we'll find AB, and AB is going to be what? AB is basically, if we have a look at AB in this direction, this AB can be calculated by going AO and then OB, right? So AB is going to be equals to AO plus OB, and what is going to happen eventually? What will happen eventually? We can say, so AO is negative of A plus of B, so we can say this is minus A plus B. But what was AX? AX was just 3 parts of the total 5 portions, right? So what is AX going to be? We will say that AX is going to be, we know that AX is going to be 3 over 5 of AB, where the value of AB is known. So we will say that AX is going to be 3 over 5 of minus A plus B. So this is going to be the answer for this part. Now, part B says that we're supposed to find XC. Give your answers in the simplest form. Now, what is XC? This is XC. This is the value of XC. Now, let's see how do we get this. Now, if I want to find this XC, that means for XC, I'll have to go XA plus AC. Now, we know that XC is equals to XA plus A and C. This is how we find XC. So this is the path that I'm going to follow, XA plus AC. We know the value of XA, that is going to be negative of this term, but we are still not sure what is going to be XA. But there's one thing that we know. Now, what is that thing? We know that this line and this line is parallel, and because the question is stated that, and we know that these are vertically opposite properties, which means that this triangle is going to be similar to this triangle, right? So this part is similar to this part, and if I know that this length is B, this length is supposed to be KB, and it's going to be of the same ratio depending on this, right? So what are we going to say? The length of smaller ratio or the length of the smaller triangle divided by the length of larger triangle is going to be same as the ratio of other lengths. Now what does that mean? Have a look at this. What I'm going to say now, XA is going to be, this XA would be minus 3 over 5 times of minus A plus B plus AC, where AC, in order to find AC, we need to know that it is going to be 2 over 3. It's going to be what? It's going to be 2 over 3 is equals to, it's going to be what? It's equals to, let's say if this length was 1, so this is 1 over the length, let's call this Z, alright? So this is going to be 1 over Z. Why is that? So have a look at this part. Now we know that this, since these are similar triangles because of the parallel lines and the alternate angle property, so we know that this triangle is similar because all three angles are same. For this, I mean same as in the corresponding angles are same. This angle is similar to this and this angle is similar to this. Hence, this is a property of similar triangles. So we know this length upon 3 would be equivalent to this length upon this length. So the ratios of the two lengths would be same. So that is how I can find the value of z, and that z would be equals to what? So the z value for z is going to be 3 upon 2. All right. So we know that this z is going to be 3 upon 2, and since we said if this is 1b, so this is going to be 3 over 2 times b. So this is what this thing is going to be. AC is going to be 3 over 2 times of b. Now let's solve this part. So when we solve this, what are we going to get? So this is minus 3 over 5a, along with minus of a, this will be positive a, and then minus of 3 over 5b plus of 3 over 2b. Now this would be as it is. Now over here we'll be taking LCM. So what will this become? This would become 3 over 5 of a, and this would be minus 6b plus 10b, or 15b actually, plus 15b over of 10b. Now how do we know this is 10? We know not b. Now what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to take LCM or cross multiply the two numbers and the two numbers at the bottom. So that's how we're supposed to take LCM. So this should be 3 over 5 of a, and minus 6 plus 15 gives us 9, so plus 9 over 10 of b. That's how we are going to solve this particular part. Let's move on to the next question. Question 22. Now question 22 says that we are supposed to write x squared plus 4x minus 12, and we are supposed to solve this, and we are supposed to write this in this format. So this seems to be a question of completing squares, and we know in order to solve completing squares, we are basically supposed to apply a square or get a square on the whole thing. And how do we get that? We'll do x squared plus 4x, and then we close the bracket, minus of 12. Now what do? We do x squared plus 4x plus 4 upon 2, along with square is added inside the bracket. The same thing will be subtracted outside of the bracket, so 4 over 2 squared, and this would give us x plus 2 whole square minus of 12 minus of 2 square, which is 4. So this should give us x plus 2 whole square minus of 16 as the answer for this case, where we now know the values of a and b, which is going to be x plus 2 whole square plus of b. Now this plus of b was 16, basically a minus of 16 actually. So this is minus of 16. Now, it says use your answer to part A to find the coordinates of the turning point. Now, keep in mind the turning point are same as these coordinates but with the opposite sign. Now, what does that mean? The general format of writing the turning point is x minus h square plus k, where h comma k is going to be my turning point. Now, if I compare it with the answers that I have, x plus 2 square minus 16, so I should be knowing that minus 2 is equals to plus 2 and k is equals to minus 16. Hence, what is going to be the values? Let's see. I know that minus h is equals to 2. Hence, the value of h is going to be what? H is equals to 2. Right? And then minus 2, sorry. H is equals to minus 2 from this particular part. Similarly, I know that k is going to be minus of 14, 16 actually. So k is equals to what? K is equals to minus of 16, and since this was my y coordinate over here, as stated, this right here, this right here, so what are going to be the coordinates? The coordinates are going to be minus 2 and minus 16. Now we are supposed to sketch this graph. How will we sketch this graph? Let's see. Now we know the turning point is minus 2 and minus 16. So minus 2 and minus 16 will be drawn somewhere over here. But before we move on to that part, what exactly does the examiner demand? He demands that indicating where the graph crosses the axes, which means we're supposed to find the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. Now how do we find that? Let's see. In order to find the x-intercept, what am I going to do? For x-intercept, I know that my y is equals to 0, and when my y is equals to 0, I will be using x square. This whole thing was basically what? y is equals to x plus 2 square minus 16, and this whole thing is going to be equals to 0, so hence it will be 0 is equals to x plus 2 square minus 16, and we know that 16 is equals to x plus 2 square, and we apply an under root, so it should be plus minus of 4 is equals to x plus 2, and the value of x is going to be what? That is going to be 4 minus 2, x is equals to 2, or the other value is going to be um, yep, and the other value is going to be what? The other value is going to be x is equals to minus 4 minus 2, and that will give me x is equals to minus 6. Now what does that mean? That means that either my value for x is going to be minus of 6, or the other value for that is going to be 2. Now these are going to be my x-intercepts. Now what about my y-intercept? For y-intercept, for my y-intercept, my value for x is going to be 0. Now if I have a look, if I plug in both zeros over here, I'll get the answer as minus 12. So the value for y will be minus 12 for this case. Now I know that my graph would be intersecting somewhere here at minus 12. Now what else do I know? I know that my turning point was minus 2 and minus 16, so it should be somewhere here. Let's call that minus 16. This is my turning point, minus 2 and minus 16, which I found out from the last part right here. And now I'm going to draw my graph. So these are the coordinates where my graph will go, and I know since the value for a is positive, how do I know? Right here, since there is nothing over here, that means this value is positive, hence it's going to be a happy face. So this is how my graph is supposed to be drawn, something like this. All right, should be passing from here. Now let's move on to question number 23. Now, question number 23 says that OAB is a minor sector of circle with center O, and OCD is a major sector of a different circle with center O, where OCA and ODB are straight lines. OC is equals to 6. So this part is going to be 6 from O up until C. This is 6, and it further says that OA is going to be OC and OA is going to be 9, which means this part is supposed to be 9. The whole radius over here is going to be 9. Now, if we have a look at this, it further states that the arc length, which is the length of the minor arc, which is AB, is supposed to be 5 pi. So it's going to be, this part is supposed to be what? This part is supposed to be 5 pi. And we are supposed to work out the area of major sector. How do we get area of major sector? The examiner wants us to find the area of this part, and how do you find that? Let's have a look. So if I want to find this area, it's going to be A is equals to theta over 360 times of pi r square, where the value of radius is going to be 6. For this case, the radius over here is 6 for this sector, so we'll plug in 6 over here, and this is going to be A is equals to theta over 360 times of pi into 36, and we know that this is 1 and this is 10, so this should be what? A is equals to theta over 10 of pi. But the problem is we don't know the angle to calculate the area in general, and we're supposed to calculate in terms of pi. That means we should not be having theta as it is. We have to plug in a numerical value inside of this. Now, what are we supposed to do? There's another piece of information that the examiner gave us, and which is 5 pi. That was the arc length of AB. And we know that the arc length of AB is calculated using a formula. Arc length is equal to theta over 360 times of 2 pi r, where the theta is unknown and the arc length is 5 pi, is equal to theta over 360 times of 2 times of pi times of the radius, which is 9 for this case. The radius for this sector is going to be over here, that is 9. What am I going to do? I'll probably find out theta from here. So that can be 1 over, this is going to be 4 and 0 40 times, and this is 1, and this is going to be further divided by 2, so that will give us 20, and this 20 can be multiplied on this side. This is going to be 5 times 20 of pi is equal to theta times of pi, and we know that this pi and pi can be cancelled, so the value for theta is going to be what? Theta will turn out to be 100 degrees. Now keep in mind, if this theta is 100 degrees, if this is 100 degrees, what is going to be the angle for this case? That is going to be 360 minus of 100, which will give us 260 degrees, and that is what we're going to plug in over here. So over here, we'll say it's going to be 260 over 10 times of pi, and this can be cancelled, and the area will be what? The area is supposed to be 26 pi, and we're supposed to answer in terms of pi, as you can see. So we will write the answer for this is going to be what? That is going to be 26 pi, and I think these were the easiest 5 marks that you can score. So that is it for now. Let me know if you have any questions or whichever paper you'd want me to solve next, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.